This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. Welcome to Groundhog Day, the return of the fiscal cliff, as we are now less than 6 hours away from the midnight hour and the government running out of authorized funding. The president and the vice president are working the phones to whip Democratic votes as efforts on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue now to delay or prevent a partial government shutdown are happening. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel is watching the action from Capitol Hill. Hi, Mike.
Well, Brett, a day full of drama, and President Obama and Vice President Biden working the phones, trying to rally some Democratic support. House Democratic leaders are pushing back, telling their members they should not feel intimidated. In this case, they're not fighting with Republicans, they're fighting each other. The biggest obstacle to the House passing a $1.014 trillion government funding extension at the deadline of the current deal was freshman Massachusetts Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren. The liberal favorite took to the Senate floor, encouraging her allies to stand up and fight.
When the next bailout comes, a lot of people will look back to this vote to see who was responsible for putting the government back on the hook to bail out Wall Street.
Warren's objection to the weakening of Dodd-Frank banking regulations stirred Democrats in the House, although one said it isn't all about Warren.
You know, I wouldn't call this an Elizabeth Warren factor. I don't think she is a factor, or she may or not a factor. This is a middle-class factor.
Some Democrats also criticized a provision that would allow individuals to contribute substantially more money to their chosen political party.
Morning, everyone.
House Speaker John Boehner noted Democrats from the House and Senate were at the negotiating table.
It was agreed to in this bill on a bipartisan, bicameral agreement. And so while some members may have objected to this issue or that issue, nobody did this unilaterally. We've done this in a bipartisan fashion, and frankly, it's a good bill.
Ahead of the final vote in the House, Leader Nancy Pelosi expressed her outrage.
I was so really heartbroken. I don't think I've ever said that word on the floor of the House. Heartbroken to see the taint that was placed on this valuable appropriations bill from on high.
Meanwhile, sources say the White House has been telling Democrats it supports this 1,603-page package that funds almost all the federal government through September and Homeland Security through February over a 60-day continuing resolution. And spokesman Josh Earnest was asked about the president being on the opposite side of Warren's protest.
She's referring to, I think, a specific provision in this omnibus that would be related to watering down one provision of the Wall Street reform law. The president does not support that provision, but on balance, the president does believe that this compromise proposal is worthy of his support.
Yet the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee remained opposed on social media and appealed to supporters to stop what it called the Boehner Bank bailout. Just moments ago, White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough arrived on Capitol Hill to try and twist arms with House Democrats. It's not clear if that will work. Plan B at this point appears to be a short-term continuing resolution. The White House doesn't like that. It feels like it would lose leverage with an all-Republican Congress. Brett?
Mike, this is a real test for the president and the administration. If it doesn't get across the finish line, that's an indication.
Yeah, to see whether Nancy Pelosi and Elizabeth Warren have more input or power with House rank-and-file members, or whether the president still has some power with them. And so a real test to see how much he has left or how much he may be a lame duck at this point.
Yeah. Test the juice. Mike, thank you. Let's talk more about Elizabeth Warren and the possibility of a 2016 run. Chief Political Correspondent Carl Cameron joins us tonight. Good evening, Carl.
Elizabeth Warren is testing just how much juice she's got. She's making herself a major player in this, and she's been doing it all week. It is gutsy for a senator, as Mike alluded to tell House members how to vote. But that's exactly what Warner's done all week, and she has been raising her profile. She's been feisty, she's been populist, and the left is just loving it. It looks a lot like she's taken a page from GOP Senator Ted Cruz's playbook. Remember, he pushed House Republicans to shut down the government last year, got a lot of attention and heat for it, and now he's actively positioning for a White House run. So this isn't a bad move politically for Elizabeth Warren, and she's holding sway, at least at this hour. We'll see what happens in another 6.
Yeah. Warren says, though, she's not running for president.
Yeah, but an awful lot of liberals, A, don't want to believe that. B, they are looking for an alternative to Hillary Clinton. And C, they think that Warren could just be being coy and biding her time. There's been a draft movement for months dubbed Ready for Warren. We've all heard about Ready for Hillary. This is Ready for Warren. They're hiring and organizing in early states like Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. And this week, they got a big boost. 2 major grassroots groups with serious influence on liberals have joined the Warren bandwagon. MoveOn.org, been around for years, has 8 million members and is donating $1 million to Ready for Warren, which has to gall Clinton, since Move On was created to defend her husband when he was president back in the 90s. Now, the other group is Democracy for America, which threw in with the Ready for Warren group this week as well. And it's a group that is actually created by Howard Dean, who has said he's going to vote for support Hillary Clinton. So it just shows you right off the bat where the divisions are in the Democratic Party. And it's also pretty clear that Democrats, many liberals, think that Hillary is too hawkish on defense issues and foreign policy and ultimately too cozy with Wall Street. So enter Elizabeth Warren tonight. If we may look back on this 6 months or a year from now and say this is where the Warren campaign really began.
Interesting to watch. They're ready for somebody. Carl, thank you. The intelligence community fired back today in response to the highly critical Senate Intelligence Committee report on CIA interrogation methods. The head of the spy agency disputes many of the Democratic-led committee's findings, while President Obama continues to walk a political tightrope between starkly opposing viewpoints. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Ed Henry's at the White House, where the president is once again taking fire from both ideological sides. But we begin with Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge and the view from America's spy master. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett. The CIA director said the interrogation program must be seen in the context of the 9/11 attacks that robbed us of nearly 3,000 lives and an enemy that is determined to strike again.
They would plunge us into a seemingly never-ending war against a globally dispersed collection of terrorists with a murderous agenda.
Director John Brennan disputed a key finding in the Senate Intelligence Committee report that the Enhanced Interrogation Program, also known as EITs, did not provide substantive leads in the decade-long hunt for the al-Qaeda leader and his compound in Pakistan.
There was information obtained subsequent to the application of EITs from detainees that was useful in the bin Laden operation.
Brennan offered a more nuanced assessment of the program and the connection between the waterboarding of al-Qaeda operatives, including 9/11 architect Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and the information they provided.
The cause and effect relationship between the use of EITs and useful information subsequently provided by the detainee is, in my view, unknowable.
And he echoed the sentiment of current and former CIA officers that the report had a fundamental flaw because they were never questioned.
You lose the opportunity to really understand what was taking place at the time.
The live news conference here at CIA headquarters is unprecedented and reflects the impact of the Democratic-led Senate report on the agency and its mission.
This is a feature, I think, of our past and one that we have to come to terms with and deal with. And this agency is determined to move forward.
While not offering specifics, Brennan said the revelations were damaging and reinforced the view among America's allies that we cannot be trusted.
There are things that we do with our partner services under our authorities that we have covert action authorities, and covert is something that they were hoping that was going to remain such.
There are lingering questions about Brennan, who says he privately objected to the interrogations when he served as a CIA deputy director under President Bush, and why he didn't do more to stop the program.
I was not in the chain of command. I did not have authority over the implementation of that program or the management oversight of it.
When weapons of mass destruction were not found in Iraq, Brennan said Republicans and Democrats on the Senate Intelligence Committee worked together, but in this case, the investigation was lopsided. Brett.
Captain, thank you. As in many things, critics are accusing President Obama of trying to have it both ways on the CIA report. And as is often the case lately, it appears he's managing to make almost no one happy. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry has that part of the story tonight.
Even though he does not always show up to personally deliver President Obama's daily intelligence briefing, CIA Director John Brennan did so today, just hours before his big news conference, giving the president a chance to huddle behind closed doors with his embattled CIA director as aides offered a vote of confidence.
And the president wakes up every morning pleased to know that John Brennan and the men and women of the CIA are at work. using their skills and expertise to protect the American people.
That comes as the president keeps getting pressure from the left to do more to rein in the CIA. Beyond Democratic calls for Brennan and others to be fired, the American Civil Liberties Union today demanded a special prosecutor be named, amid criticism the president is having it both ways by deploring practices in the Bush administration as un-American, while his Justice Department presses no criminal charges. The president is saying this is outside the law, I had to ban it. And now we have 500 pages saying the law was broken.
Let's be real clear about what the president was saying. The president was saying that these tactics were entirely inconsistent with our values as Americans, and that they undermined our moral authority.
That's in direct conflict with Brennan, who again said he believes enhanced interrogation techniques help stop terror attacks.
But for someone to say that there was no intelligence of value, of use, that came from those detainees once they were subjected to EITs, I think that lacks any foundation at all.
Spokesman Josh Earnest again said there is no contradiction in the president denouncing brutal tactics for terrorists while ramping up drone strikes that frequently result in innocent deaths.
Before any counterterrorism strike is taken outside the area of active hostilities, there must be near certainty, this is policy, there must be near certainty that no civilians will be killed or injured.
Leading former Vice President Dick Cheney to charge the president's policies are soft on terror detainees like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
And what are we supposed to do? Kiss him on both cheeks and say, please, please, tell us what you know? Of course not. We did exactly what needed to be done in order to catch those who were guilty on 9/11 and to prevent a further attack. And we were successful on both parts.
This report says it was not successful.
The report's full of crap.
Now, in the last few moments, former President George H.W. Bush also is weighing in on this, putting out a statement declaring that intelligence officials often do dangerous and selfless work, adding, quote, I felt compelled to reiterate my confidence in the agency today and to thank those throughout its ranks for their ongoing and vitally important work to keep America safe and secure. Of course, the former president served as CIA director in the mid-70s. Brett.
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. Up next, why the Obama administration is resorting to name-calling and little else against Islamic terrorists in the Middle East. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Portland's Fox 12 with a live look at Lincoln City, Oregon, where a massive storm is headed after slamming into northern California today, dumping as much as 7 inches of rain in some places. Electricity was cut off, roads flooded, schools closed, and flights canceled in San Francisco. Fox 25 in Boston has a woman who ran her car into a house. She's been charged now with operating under the influence. Police say the vehicle came to rest directly over the bed where a 72-year-old man had been resting. He sustained a laceration to the head. And this is a live look in San Diego from Fox 5. The big story there tonight, there it is, the end of a tense standoff between police and a man suspected of killing his wife. Daniel Diego Perez was swarmed by officers when he got out of his car with two of his young sons. It appeared the suspect was trying to jump off an elevated freeway transition ramp. That is tonight's live look. Outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.